6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. The government plans to fully vaccinate the country by the end of this year. The World Health Organization has provided 2 million syringes urgently needed in Sri Lanka. The government continues to grant the allowance of 2,000 rupees for the families who lost their livelihood due to the quarantine curfew. The visa fees and fines for foreigners have been revised. Notorious criminal Pottanaufa has died after contracting coronavirus. All dedicated economic centres will be open today as well. Retail trading allowed only in the centres located in the Western Province. And in news overseas, Biden says another Kabul airport attack likely. Those are the headlines, and now more to the details of the local news. Minister of Health Kelly Rambukpalla says that the government is planning to complete the vaccination program by the end of this year. 25% of the country's population has been fully vaccinated at present. He made these remarks while accepting the stock of Pfizer vaccines received to the country by the COVAX facility. The United States has donated over 100,000 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccines to Sri Lanka yesterday. These vaccines will help to save the lives and increase the COVID-19 vaccination coverage in Sri Lanka, so essential to ending the pandemic, the U.S. Embassy in Colombo said in a press release. As the pandemic continues and new variants emerge, it is critical we work together to vaccinate as many people as possible and as quickly as possible, said Lena Teplitz, the U.S. ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Maldives. This donation of FDA-approved Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines comes at no cost and represents the United States' continuing commitment to the health and prosperity of the Sri Lankan people. In spite of the severe economic hardships faced by the government owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, it has commenced the grant of allowance of 2,000 rupees to those who have lost their livelihood due to the imposition of the quarantine curfew. At present, provisions have been made for the district secretaries to grant the allowance. The Presidential Task Force on Economic Revival and Poverty Alleviation issued a circular regarding the grant of 2,000 rupee allowance. However, the government has not curtailed any subsidy or allowance given to deserving people due to the pandemic. The government continuously provides welfare benefits and subsidies such as Samruddhi allowance and elders allowance. The monthly allowance given to differently able people, chronically ill, kidney patients, and the nutritional food package for expectant mothers are also being given without any hindrance. The Department of Immigration and Immigration says that the visa fees and the fines for foreigners have been revised. The Department of Immigration and Immigration said that a foreigner staying in Sri Lanka without a valid visa will be charged $500 penalty in addition to the visa fee. The Department of Immigration and Immigration also said that $200 will be charged from investors, employees, students, healthcare recipients, representatives of non-governmental institutions, religious workers and their spouses, and dependent children for residence visa. $100 will be charged for the residence visa fee for any persons whose Sri Lankan citizenship has been seized under the sections 19, 20 or 21 of the Citizenship Act, and the spouses and the dependent children of such persons and any persons who had been registered as Indian citizens under the Section 13 of the Indo-Ceylon Agreement and his or her spouse and dependent children. $100 will also be charged from a non-Sri Lankan spouse of a demised Sri Lankan who was not remarried, non-Sri Lankan spouse of a Sri Lankan citizen who is living in Sri Lanka continuously for not less than 10 years, and non-Sri Lankan spouse of a Sri Lankan citizen who has children below the age of 18. The residence visa fee for the clergy and foreign nationals who are married to Sri Lankan citizens and the dependent children of the non-Sri Lankan spouses will be free. Tourists from SAARC countries can obtain 30-day visa via online process for $20, and this fee for the tourists from other countries will be $35. The tourists can extend their visa after 30 days, up to 90 days, and also up to 180 days and 270 days subsequently. For Austria, Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, Poland, Italy, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Spain, Greece, Sweden, Hungary, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, the United States of America, Canada, Japan, Switzerland, Norway, Portugal, Slovenia, Estonia, Mauritius, Iceland, and Cuba, the fee charged for visa extension up to 90 days is $100. The United States, Singapore, the Maldives, Seychelles and Czech Republic are exempted from this fee. For any country other than the designated country, the visa extension for 30 to 90 days will cost $60. For tourists from the United States, the visa extension for 90 to 180 days will also be available off charge. However, for other countries, the fee will be $150. Meanwhile, the visa extension after 180 days up to 270 days is available for $200 for any country. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. Notorious criminal Pottanaufa has died after contracting the coronavirus. He was serving death sentence in prison when he had contracted the virus. The prison's department said that Muhammad Niaz Naufa, alias Pottanaufa, died while being treated for the virus. He was being taken to the Karapite Teaching Hospital for an examination of a kidney ailment recently, and an antigen test confirmed that he was infected with the virus. Naufa was transferred to the Valikada Prison's hospital for further treatment. Pottanaufa was sentenced to death for killing of High Court Judge Sarath Ambepitia. All dedicated economic centers will be open today as well. However, these too will only be available for wholesale trading. But for the convenience of the people in the Western Province, the government has allowed retail trading for the economic centers located only in the Western Province. 4,596 coronavirus cases have been detected in Sri Lanka yesterday, raising the number of confirmed infections to 421,557. The epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health said 57,580 persons are currently receiving treatment for coronavirus at several facilities across the country. 2,203 persons who recovered from COVID-19 were discharged from the hospitals yesterday. This raised the number of recoveries in the country to 355,394. 3,687 suspected COVID-19 cases are also under medical observation at present. Sri Lanka's COVID virus death toll is currently at 8,583. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. The government plans to fully vaccinate the country by the end of this year. The World Health Organization has provided 2 million syringes urgently needed in Sri Lanka. The government continues to grant the allowance of 2,000 rupees for the families who lost their livelihood due to the quarantine curfew. The visa fees and fines for foreigners have been revised. Notorious criminal Pottanaufa has died after contracting coronavirus. All dedicated economic centers will be open today as well. Retail trading allowed only in the centers located in the Western Province. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for this morning, the World Health Organization has provided 2 million syringes urgently needed in Sri Lanka. The WHO said that in its continued effort to support Sri Lanka's COVID-19 response, it provided 2 million syringes for the ongoing vaccinations. These were delivered in two consignments. The first arrived on the 30th of August and the second on Friday evening, the WHO said. Dr. Alaka Singh, WHO representative to Sri Lanka, stated, at this critical time, WHO values the collaboration extended by donors for the COVID-19 response. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And I watched like this morning, Health Ministry has initiated a program to provide an electronic certificate for the persons who obtained COVID vaccines. At present, the certificate is being offered only for the migrations. Persons who arrive from foreign countries, the vaccination certificate will be inspected. That came to you in Watchlight, and now we move on to the headlines of the world news. Biden says another Kabul airport attack likely. More than 500 migrants rescued off Italian island. Afghan refugee heading to the UK gives birth at 30,000 feet. Those are the headlines, and now we move on to the details of the world news. Another attack on Kabul airport is highly likely, U.S. President Joe Biden has warned, saying that military commanders have told him it could come as early as Sunday. The U.S. is continuing evacuation, but the final UK troops, diplomats and officials have now left Kabul. About 170 people died after a suicide bomber targeted the airport on Thursday. The ISK group has claimed the attack. In retaliation, the U.S. carried out a drone strike on eastern Afghanistan late on Friday, killing killing 2 high-profile members of the ISK, the Islamic State group in Khorasan province. The 2 are described as a planner and a facilitator. It is unclear whether they were directly involved in the planning the Kabul airport attack. Italian Coast Guard vessels have rescued 539 migrants from a fishing boat drifting off the island Lampedusa. The rescue on Saturday delivered one of the largest numbers of migrants to the Italian island in a single day. Women and children were among those on board. Some of the migrants who had been traveling across the Mediterranean Sea from Libya reportedly displayed signs of violence. Italian prosecutors have opened an inquiry into what may have happened. An Afghan refugee fleeing to the UK gave birth to a baby girl at 30,000 feet while on an evacuation flight destined for Birmingham. Soma Nouri, age 26, was on a flight from Dubai to Birmingham, having previously left Kabul when she went into labor. The Turkish airline said. With no doctor on board, members of the cabin crew delivered the baby girl, named Hawa or Eve in English. The airline said both the mother and the child are healthy. Turkish Airlines said the flight landed in Kuwait as a precaution before carrying on to Birmingham. And to conclude the world news, the headlines once again. Biden says another Kabul airport attack likely. More than 500 migrants rescued off Italian island. Afghan refugee heading to the UK gives birth at 30,000 feet. And that was the world news.
Development News is brought to you by Quality Matters Than Price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number 1 in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
In development news, the government says 390 large-scale development projects which cost more than 10 billion rupees are being implemented in the country. These projects will be carried out under 43 ministries and will be implemented until the year 2030. The overall value of these projects exceeded 7 trillion rupees. 715 million rupees has been allocated for the development activities this year. And that came to you in the segment of development news.
Development News was brought to you by Quality Matters Than Price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number 1 in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
And moving on to sports news, Chelsea frustrated Liverpool in a fast and furious Anfield encounter to claim the hard-earned point despite being reduced to 10 men after Reece James' first half sending off. In the battle between the two Premier League superpowers who are fully expected to contest in the title this season, Liverpool pressed frantically throughout, but the Champions League holders were superbly organised and will untimely be satisfied with the draw. Liverpool started at a Super League pace, but Chelsea were composed and took the lead when Kai Havertz sent an angle-glancing header beyond the reach of keeper Alisson from James' corner in front of the Kop on the 29th minute. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, the All-Share Price Index reaching another all-time high in a shot in the arm for the capital market and in a fresh impetus to investors seeking to make good of a market which is on an upward trajectory. The Colombo Stock Exchange All-Share Price Index reached an all-time high of 9,064.1 points on Friday and settled back to 8,955.0, which is still higher than the historic records. The index increased by 10.6 points to close at 8,931.3, whilst the ASP SL20 index also increased by 28.0 points to close the day at 3,355.1. That is the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news.
courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And in economic news, State Minister of Money and Capital Markets and State Enterprises Reform, Ajit Cabral, said that Sri Lanka cannot afford a lockdown due to economic reasons. He said the country must be kept open since long-term economic damage will be widespread. Cabral stated this in an official Twitter account that macro fundamentals will be seriously compromised while 4.5 million in small and medium-scale businesses will face serious consequences. Half of the population will not be able to face the fallout of a lockdown, although he acknowledged the need to impose strict health restrictions to contain the spread of novel coronavirus. That was economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, the weather report: showers will occur at times in the western, Sabarkamua, central and northwestern provinces and the Galle and Madara districts. Heavy falls of showers above 55 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabarkamua and central provinces and the Galle and Madara districts. A few showers will occur in the Anuradhapura districts. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara, Batikalo and Hambantota districts after 2 p.m. Fairly strong gusty winds up to 50 km per hour can be expected in the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. On the apparent southward relative motion of the sun, it is going to be directly over the latitudes of Sri Lanka during the period 28th of August to the 7th of September this year. The nearest towns of Sri Lanka over which the sun is overhead today are Berlankulam and Murukandi. And that was the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And before we conclude this bulletin of news, let's get back to the headlines once again. The government plans to fully vaccinate the country by the end of this year. The World Health Organization has provided 2 million syringes urgently needed in Sri Lanka. The government continues the grant of 2,000 rupee allowance for the families who lost their livelihood due to the quarantine curfew. The visa fees and fines for foreigners have been revised. Notorious criminal Pot Tanaufer has died after contracting coronavirus. All dedicated economic centers will be open today as well. Retail trading allowed only in the centers located in the Western Province. And in news overseas, Biden says another Kabul airport attack likely. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And you're with Radio Sri Lanka.